Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now today is a weekly update patch notes. However, you will see that the heading is different. It's weekly update patch notes Warroom update. Now the Warroom update is actually a compilation of every event from mid-December up till the end of February. There are several major events that occurred within this period. Since I was part of Genesis Federation, I was part of listening into the schism that formed when the Borg separated from Genesis. I was part of Pandemic during its rise, and I have a lot of inside information. And you know what? I'm going to expose a lot of information in this video. So if you do want to enjoy it, you are free to enjoy it. I am free of all alliance relations at the moment. So if you want to go and attack me, go ahead and attack me. But know that I have this real weird habit of recording conversations, right? So if you're going to go and attack me on a live schedule like this, be prepared to have the full conversation released with all the incriminating information that it has. Right, so that is just a warning to anybody who's been spreading a little bit of false lies about me, and that is just a massive warning against them if they try to stop me after I release this information. Okay, so here's the whole thing. Genesis Federation had a schism forming within it around December the 15th when the holiday season began and a lot of people started to log off the game. Now they logged off for that short period of about 3 to 4 weeks when they were spending time with their family. Genesis leadership in forms of FCs were very adamant on pushing the agenda of people playing missions and CTAs in this time. This caused even more problems and more arguments within the corp, with several major FCs having been very rude to other people within the corp. Now, this is where a lot of problems form for Genesis. This is really where their downfall came, why they're in such a weak and peculiar point at this moment. With the reduction of members, I'm just going to call the leader of Genesis the Tyrant Leader, and their second in command, their main FC, the Content Creator, the Tyrant Content Creator. It's the easiest way for me to label them. Obviously, you do know who they are, but for the sake of the video, I'm just using those names so that it isn't a direct reference. Because with direct references, lawyers can get a little bit pushy. But this is an update on what has happened, and I'm going to go through it. So the war with DP was amping down, and things were really dying down. A lot of information had come in about DP locating themselves in HiSec and forming alliances and corporations down there, getting ready for an attack on the space that Genesis had taken from them in Faith Abolis. Now, during this period, a lot of fighting had occurred within the corporation itself, within Genesis. Several members had been fought with by the Tyrant Leader. One such member was from Borg. He was a very prominent person, and he wasn't willing to take nonsense from anybody. He literally shoved it in the Tyrant Leader's face that she was a thief at one point, stealing something from him within another game. Obviously, it's within the game context, saying that she shouldn't be talking about things in such a manner when she does the same actions. This resulted in a massive rivalry within the corporation and a lot of other things that happen within it. Now, I'm free to say whatever I want because nobody can pull down my comments. Nobody can tell me to stop because there isn't a corp who I am aligned with. I'm not a part of the Borg. I'm not a part of Genesis Federation. I'm not a part of Silent. You can go and attack everybody, and all they're going to do is contact me directly and ask me to pull down the video. But you're going to have to contact me directly and threaten me directly to see what I say. And when you threaten me, obviously you can understand that I will not leave it silent. If you threaten me this time, anybody who threatens me, I will publicly put up your Discord information. And when I say the Discord information, I mean all chats that are made to threaten me about this video are hereby public information and will be posted on my private Discord, on my Facebook page. Sorry, not my Facebook page, on my on my YouTube content page. So everybody will get a chance to see these things if anybody should try to do that again to me. Now, I got very upset when this happened to me, and I held the leadership who forced me to do this to the standards of the contract that was made due to that action. Now, let's continue on with what happened within Genesis. So Genesis went up a little bit further, and they hatched a plan between the tyrant leader, and I don't even know who she hatched the plan with, but here's the whole plan as she saw it. She will move all of her forces and condense all 600 active members into Astoria at the home base of BZ. Now, in so doing, this would force a large number of players into one area, making it very difficult for forces such as Dead Space or any other corp to take them on. This caused massive schisms within the corporation around the December-January period. Everybody knows about this because this is the period when Mercenary Coalition took a piece of land from Genesis Federation in turn for not being able to take contracts out against Genesis Federation members. So yes, Genesis Federation were literally using MC to fight the war for them in many manners. They were forcing them to come closer so that they would take more coalition fights against Golden Horde. Golden Horde were discussed as a target in a meeting which the tyrant leader had not seen me in. So I was part of a group which was pure EMP or pure GET as it was at that time, and I was busy ratting with them for about 3 hours. For me it was early morning, it was like 3 a.m. and I was just sitting quiet because it's something that I do when I get very tired. I either talk a lot or I go silent. And while sitting in this group, the tyrant leader was explaining, we need to get ready to move on to our next target. Now, this is where things went out of control. A whole lot of these stories were leaked out by me at a later stage. I spread all of this after I left the corp, after they gave me threats. Now, that is just the way that I function, and rumors are part of the game. Within the game, spreading rumors about corporation activities and corporation plans is called spying. It is part of the tactics of a MMO strategy game. I played a very good strategy by playing a spy, and it wasn't like it was a secret. I did openly say on my channel, I am 00 Echoes. So nonetheless, I got a hold of this information, and man oh man did I spread it. And I also spread a ton of fake news with it. Now, that is one of the things about me. I'm very capable of spreading bad news and causing a war here and there, making people see there's blood in the water. Now, when Dead Space had actually taken down the Genfed station, the corp station that they had placed in Faith of Wallace, I spread everything across the web that I could. Every way that I could, I spread it as fast as I could. Now, I didn't touch Reddit, I didn't touch Facebook, I didn't touch Instagram. I only used Discord, and I only used YouTube. I spread small pieces of information about doctrines where the weaknesses lied, because I already knew what doctrines were being run, because we were told to fly those doctrines and what skill levels we needed. So I used that information against them in spreading it to other corps. Okay, so moving on from this point, several other major things did happen within the whole aspect of the game. Around this point is the point where I joined the Silent prior to that defeat, I joined the Silent Corporation. Now, within the Silent Corporation, I was threatened by Genesis to pull down content on my channel. The content is back up on the channel, by the way. If you go down the history, you will find the Genesis Federation DP war analysis in my war rooms. So that is back up on the channel. Since I'm no longer part of the Silent, they cannot threaten me. They cannot threaten the Silent because the Silent has no control over me, and there is no way to make me pull down content. But obviously, this is one of the threats which you really can't uphold, especially when a person doesn't have a corp that they are aligned to, because you can't pull allegiance strings, especially when they're just a high corp player at the moment. So here's exactly what happened moving forward from this point. I joined the Silent Corporation because they were a very friendly little bunch of players, and to be honest, it was more or less for a working contract on the terms of content creators having events and sponsors given to us for being part of the corporation. That is why I joined them. That is the reality of it. I expected to be doing collaborations every week, considering that they said they're the largest group of content creators. Unfortunately, that never happened. I don't have a single piece of collaboration or event orientated activities from the corporation in all the time that I was there. Everything that was planned and done solo is the only things I have, and that would count as my own content. So that's the way that it went. Unfortunately, I was kicked for pushing that issue at a later date when it was almost a month in and I wasn't getting the events that were promised or the sponsorships that were promised. I went and I pushed the issue, and that's the reason why I got kicked from the corp. So that is the whole reason to why I am outside of Silent. So yeah, that is the open news on why I'm no longer part of Silent. Why I'm not part of any other corp, whole other story. It's a story being blown out of proportion. Like I said, I have recordings of almost every conversation, and I have recordings of the conversations that were used against me out of context in their full 9-hour format. So yeah, it's a really long conversation to actually pull, and to send it to anybody is impossible, but I will not be sending it to people individually or airing it on the YouTube channel. In case anybody tries to attack me, I will use that against them so that they know they can't really attack me on it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of this whole situation. Now, within the whole aspect of this, Genesis was absolutely crumbling. They had this whole period, in that whole period where they moved people out from areas to strengthen their stronghold, where they were mashing a lot with the Borg. Now, the Borg weren't really the powerhouse in terms of military power, but they were the powerhouse in terms of content creation for the region. The Borg were actively pushing the bounds into Faith of Wallace. The Borg were actively pushing the bounds of monitoring the enemy. They were the main force behind a lot of the actions that Genesis were going through. The Tyrant leader didn't see the importance of having free and casual players moving up and down everywhere and having good sites. She also didn't have the foresight to lock down the only channel into the corporation area that wasn't against DP. So, you know what, opening it up, leaving just the mercenary coalition to monitor a pipeline where there's 15 different parts to get into really didn't occur to her as a tactical strategy. And it's always a tactical strategy that I look at. A small force we are willing to sacrifice is always worth it to isolate the parts that are being used to attack you. And when I say willing to be sacrificed, I mean if you have a corporation who's 100 members strong at the bottom, they're going to take a lot of those fights firsthand. They're going to form a breaker for you. It gives you time to form up and start heading towards them. They're generally going to lose large confrontations with enemies who are 4 to 5 times bigger, and it will allow you a chance to stop that enemy force from getting into other strongholds. So they're always going to have that breaker feel. So you always make a very strong force on that first line. The longer the breakers holds, the bigger your force in retaliation can be, and the more players you will have, the more bodies to fight your battle. But obviously tactics like that, they escape the Tyrant leader and the Tyrant content creator. Now that is exactly what happened within the aspect of Genesis Federation. They went and they fought with their large corp, the Borg, and it eventually led into the disassociation between the Borg and Genesis. Borg were the key founding members of Genesis Federation. Kicking them out made Genfed lose its ability to be Genesis Federation. Genesis Federation was now the Tyrant Leaders Federation, and it should be called the Tyrant Leaders Federation. It would make a lot more sense. So here's exactly what happened from this point. All the leadership who had created Genesis Federation in Second Galaxy were now separated from the original force. One of them is my friend. He's been with me as a friend since back in the time when I was in Genesis, all the way in the start of December. He's been playing with me, talking with me all the way up to this point. He no longer plays the game at the moment. He decided to play other games for the time being. So with all of this came a whole load of controversy. That's the best that I can put it in. So this is where Genfed's major fall in power happened. They lost their major stay power on diplomacy with other corps. They lost their control over the chats. In other words, the Genesis members who were in the chats most were Borg. So without the Borg members holding up all the chats and creating this flow of good, reasonable conversation, keeping the mood atmospheric, happy, cheery, joyful, they lost it. With the loss of it came the increase of CTAs, the increased pressure from enemies, and they kept burning their place. Now at this time I still had spies within Genfed. It's just after this period when the rumors had started to spread heavy that my spies got really angry with me, and I lost a lot of them. I lost a lot of them in a very close sequence because they ended up getting burnt with information I was feeding. It's always good to tell lies with your truth mixed in. So you sell some truth with lies mixed in. That way there your truth is very, very easily caught. And Dead Space caught out one of my spies, and this year caused a whole lot of problems. At that point there, I realized that one of my spies was spying for Genesis Federation, and I actually actively targeted the individual who was responsible for that particular leak, and I called him a Genfed spy. It resulted in a lot of controversy, a lot of fake information spread from the individual himself, but nonetheless I have proof that can contradict it if anything ever had to come to a higher standpoint. So here we go at the next stage. Next stage within this whole situation was the point where it came to a larger scale battle with Genesis Federation, with a whole lot of corps banning against them. The Tyrant banning basically. This was not from what my rumors were, but they were from leaked pieces of information that I got. I was somewhat responsible for some of the after effects of this battle. It caused a lot of turmoil within certain corporations and alliances because some of my information had accidentally leaked into incorrect lines, and it had repercussions for the outer spread of Genesis Federation, cost them quite badly, and that's where it crippled a lot of their force. A lot of players weren't willing to take part in their CTAs at the point, and some of the people who I had tried to isolate from Gen had joined them in their fights. And this is where things got out of hand, and I lost all my spies because my spy network had never been used to spread this much propaganda ever before. So at this point, things just crashed out. Everybody was on a low plane. We didn't know what to do. Next, we went up to the next stage of chaos and mayhem within a greater aspect of things within the Northern Alliance. So I joined Pandemic around January the 1st. Now I'm not going to touch Genesis again because this is up to the point where they lost all of their major power and where they sunk as low as they sunk. So if you really wanted to hit Gen, this is like the perfect time. They're very weak at the moment. To hurt them a lot, you'd have to find their little stash of Capsulia outposts and blow them all up. And that would really hurt them a lot because there's over 150 people living in Capsulia outposts in a secret location within Genfed space. Now I'm not giving it away, but nonetheless you could go towards T-PAR in one of the regions that is within the control region, and you will find that somewhere close to it is a massive number of Capsulia outposts. If you have any spies within their network, get a hold of those locations, jump in, finish them off. So that would really hurt Gen because they'd be forced to then move everything to the nearest high-sec ICT, and that will bankrupt them severely. Just for, by the way, that's where the Tyrant content creator had threatened to kill miners. Alright, so let's get to the Pandemic section of things. Now, Pandemic is a growing corporation at the moment. However, within the Pandemic corporation, it isn't as cheery and cheerful as it was supposedly, and there's a lot that has to be explained about it. So Pandemic Corporation is actually consisting of multiple languages, multiple cultures, and multiple area time zones. The original thrill behind it was the fact that they didn't have overbearing CTAs, and there is just one thing that they had going for them. Sorry about that. Now, their regular information was they only run ops for 2 hours. Now, that was in the start when I joined them, and it only lasted for 2 of the CTAs I ever took part in. They were just in that 2-hour mainframe. I'm not counting 15 minutes over with the return to be over 2 hours. But nonetheless, They started to grow at a rapid rate, and one of the corps told them that their CTAs were getting a bit outstretched. They were a bit too long, they were a bit too heavy in terms of how they were draining them in terms of resources and time. So at this point, they kicked the corporation. Now, I had just made friends with this corporation because we had a very similar nature of how we spoke with each other, and I really enjoy the members of this corporation. So nonetheless, they were kicked. They were removed from this entire silent federation. And the silent federation then went on to push further. They joined in more corps. They had a lot of people who don't speak English, a lot of people who speak French, a lot of people who speak alternate languages, Spanish, basically from all over the world. As I was saying, it became a very widespread community. Now, one of the things about them is their wars weren't really tactical wars. Their only real tactical war at the moment is the war against VVV. Now, with the way that they're playing, you will notice something about it as I'm about to say it. Their CTAs went from once or twice a week to daily CTAs. It went from 1 daily CTA to 3 daily CTAs within the course of 2 weeks. Their CTA runtime went from a runtime of about 2 hours to about 5 to 6 hours on average. There were some CTAs that lasted up to 8 hours. There were some CTAs that only lasted 4 hours. So that's why I'm averaging it at 6, and it's just an average. It's not really the mean total time that they had. The mean total time was probably closer to 7.5 hours, because a lot of the missions that they ran, they won't count the complete time because they fight in the first part, they consider the CTA over, they return to base, they fight again at the base for a defense, they fight, they log out and another CTA starts. Now that makes it not really a 3-hour CTA, although you may have cancelled it at 3.5, 4 hours. All that time fighting to get back to base counts as part of your CTA because you haven't yet completed your agenda. And they did have even longer CTAs than that, 1 or 2 that went crazy, ridiculously long, almost a whole day worth of fighting. But nonetheless, these influenced and affected other players' schedules. Now, I'm a content creator. I plan things weeks in advance. Now, when it came to February, I had what I call the Heartbreak Fleet. I had a special internet package purchased for myself for that day. Basically, I spent a lot to make sure that I had this fantastic little event for myself on my channel. And it got me really upset at this point because this was the second time the corp had interfered with my channel. Because I had cleared it with them on the 1st of February, for the 14th of February, they scheduled a CTA at the same time as my event, which made it impossible for me to run my event. It got me very, very upset. It got me upset to the point where I literally went and I approached the leadership that now they have to stand up to their contract, and the contract was you joining them, you'll get sponsors, you'll get events, collaborations between the various content creators. I really didn't get to see them. In total, I would say I've only seen 3 content creators in there. The main content creator, who's True Beast, his statement about only being able to benefit from events and collaborations and sponsors if you're part of his coalition wasn't 100% true as far as I could tell, because he was partaking in operations with enemy corps, with enemy content creators, and I was told that I could only take part if I joined him. So that got me on a bit of a bad note, and at that point I approached him and I said, right, so we need events. Because I've been here for a month, I haven't had one event with this corp, I haven't had one sponsor. That's what I came here for, I want it. And I pushed that note over the course of a day and a half, which ended up leading to him kicking me out of the corp. So that is the whole story of why I'm corpless at the moment. Now, there's nothing bad about what happened. He simply couldn't live up to the expectations that I had on his contract agreement, or on his agreement for me to join his corporation. Since he couldn't live up to it, I pushed for him to live up to it, and in turn, since he couldn't do it, he kicked me from the corp so that I wouldn't be subject to a downgrade in terminology. And since I've been kicked, I've done a lot of amazing things. The collaboration with the other 13 content creators has been some of the most fun I've had when it comes to making content in a long time. And you will see that I've advertised it across premieres from the start all the way till you're going to reach the end. So you're going to get to see the most fun content builds. Coming up next is tomorrow's build, which if I am correct, is the build with RAMBO. And RAMBO's builds were some of the most fun we've ever had. We built him out as a team of 4 to a point where his ships were supposed to be the pristine of pristine. Unfortunately, he did lose one of the combat scenarios. You can see it on Savat the Mighty's channel, and we will still be finishing off some of the combat because we failed to complete all the combat last weekend. Whew, okay, sorry about that. It's a little bit heavy to give this entire breakdown. Whoa, 25 minutes. Okay, so following this, a lot of things have happened with both Genesis and Silent. Silent has started to catch up with where Genesis was in terms of membership count. And in terms of active members, I would say that Silent is about 2/3 the size of Genesis Federation, with about a 90% heavy combat orientated fleet. They don't have that much into mining, they don't have that much into industry. They do have quite a good program when it comes to buy and sell. Their program was there from the time I joined them in January. That's you have a buyer who buys all of the loot from your dead spaces, sells it, and then you get everything once a week in a massive payment. So that's how it generally works with Pandemic. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. Reminding me of something I have to ask for. So anyway, things move on from that point of view. Things go crazy. Things go up to higher levels and lower levels. And the wars are still going on both sides. BVV is also associated with the Dead Space Alliance as far as I know. That was what I got from my channels before I lost all my spies. Another thing that I do know is DP is also associated with VVV. And since Genesis is in such a weak point, with their potential for fighting the Golden Horde, who is at a phenomenal strong point at the moment, as far as I have information, it looks like Genesis is staring down the barrel. Basically, they're about to get hit so hard, they will never recover. And it doesn't take all that much to hurt Genesis. So here's exactly the weaknesses behind Genesis. The Capsulia outposts, BZ. If you take BZ from them, they are as badly hurt as what they did to Sovereign when they took Elysium. So if you go and you camp out BZ and you hurt them very badly in their own sector, hold them on the station, hit them extremely hard, hold the gate, hit everybody who enters through the gate, you only have to hold it for about a day and a half, and Genfed will crumble. Genfed has a very low count of friendly conversations within its current standings compared to what they were during the period when I was there. That was confirmed for me about, let's see, right now is March. So about February the 13th, before my Heartbreak fleet, I was told that Genfed comms are like a barren desert at the moment. Hardly anybody is ever in them. It's only fleets that are doing missions or encounters. There's no casual chat. There's no gathering up for activities. There's nobody holding up chats. So that was what I got information on. Yes, I do have some ways of getting information. I have friends. Especially when you move around from corp to corp, you make friends with people, and some friends are going to be your friends no matter what, because the game is the game and real life is real life after all. You can have fun in real life with them when it comes time. So that's everything that I do know. Now, Genesis Federation is on a very, very low note. They don't like people talking about how vulnerable they are. Obviously, I expose something which they don't want everybody to know about. And if you are an enemy of Genesis, take this information, fill it up on your notes, hit them right now while they are weak. They have a certain place run by a member called Benji. There's several Capsulia outposts in that area. Hit them, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You're going to get your wins. there's a couple of bases held in other regions. Hit them, quick, easy peasy, effortless wins once you have them down. Remember, it is going to be quite heavily guarded. There's about 250 members within that close range area. If you can pull them down, Paragon Soul and Astoria will both be left vulnerable because they're on the travel route. If I'm correct, the one person who knows where it is the Speedy gang from the DP Alliance. They know exactly where these stations are. If you get them to give you all that information, you can actually pull through and hit everything when it comes to a single push. So I'm just giving some information on Genesis, and as I said, I don't hold Genesis in the same light as I did previously. They threatened me. You don't threaten a person and expect them to be silent, and I'm definitely living up to being who I am. And that's what I want to do. I don't like someone telling me what I can and cannot say. I do understand secrecy and privacy when you're with a corporation, but when you're not in that corporation and you don't have to follow the don't gag order stories, that's the way that it goes. So as you can see, all I am saying is that Silent is following in the footsteps of what Genfed used to do. They may need to hit a break on the CTAs at some point and start focusing on more friendly behavior. Too much of fighting with too large a period tends to burn out your players. That's one thing that I have to say about the process of going with heavy CTAs. And the game base is really burnt out at the moment. Friendly players generally were the miners and the industrials. They kept together your conversations, and with them having a reduced amount of flow in terms of income, it's making things really heavy. Yes, for now they're going to get a flow for the next month and a half when it comes to T9, but after that they've got a 6-month dead period between T9 and T10. This dead period is going to be extremely slow. It's only those who are entering in the start into T10 who are going to have some type of semblance. And when it comes to T10 battleships, those are some beautiful battleships. Just like how I said, you don't want to get into battle cruisers, you want to be in battleships and one of the lower classes. Similar story with the T10s. When it comes to T10, everything is pristine. They have the highest defense, the highest output of DPS. They are the beasts of the game. So looking forward towards August, September, October, you're going to get the best gameplay you've had in a long time. If you can hang on that long, if you can stomach out the dead period that's about to come, actually there might be something coming in April. I've been trying to get the devs to give the community something, and it will be a 9-week thing, a 9-week event in April if they do it. If they don't, I won't be able to give you the full announcement. You might catch a bit of what I was proposing in Havoc's video when we collaborated on Burls. Something that I was discussing with him before we were supposed to record ended up on the record. So yeah, you can go look at that. You can have a year at what I was saying, and you can tell me whether such events would interest you. Now, it does expose something about how I planned it. I planned it so that it would appease the devs and it would appease the players, although there was some hidden information within it that wasn't supposed to be revealed to everybody. Now obviously everything has to be balanced. We have to make a gain and a loss at the same time. Now I hope that you all do enjoy this extra long weekly update, Warroom update video. Silent is definitely a corp to look out for. They might become the next powerhouse of the game. Considering how big they've grown and how big they're going to grow in the next few months, they might be the biggest powerhouse in the game. However, if the April events do come out the way I'm intending them to, if the devs do get a hold of me and they go ahead with my event plans, we might have some of the best content and the biggest reshuffles of power in the game. It might not even be Genesis who is on top. It might not be Silent. It might not even be a corp of 1,000 players who make it to the top of the list when it comes to those events. And those events are definitely something for free-to-plays. They're something for those content-heavy PvP players. Everything that I planned on that day, if the devs do approve it, will be something phenomenal. I hope that you all have enjoyed. I've definitely enjoyed making this video. It's like a weight off my chest, being able to say everything freely. So see you all in the next one. Have a good day.